What is up, gamers? And oh my god, it is the very rare full screen Minish. So for a while now, I have felt like Singed has been pretty unsatisfying in terms of his power level. I've gotten so many comments and so many Twitch chats from people about how they feel like they're struggling on the champion more than they should be. Now, I still believe that Singed's kit flows very well together, and in my opinion is one of the best designs, not only just in League of Legends, but in MOBAs as a whole. But I do feel that Riot has treated Singed a bit unfairly this year. I want to explore with you guys the plethora of changes that Riot has made this year, both directly and indirectly, to Singed, which have resulted in what I feel is a pretty unsatisfying power level for the champion. But if you guys have been around for a while, you know that there is no Minish Cap 1 speaking video that is complete without a sponsorship, so roll that clip! It's time to celebrate the release of Marvel Strike Force's special pool party theme. If you haven't played yet, you're missing out. Marvel Strike Force is a mobile squad RPG where you can battle with your favorite superheroes and villains. In a fight to save the universe, you will face off against legendary threats like Doctor Doom and Apocalypse. The goal: power up your characters, complete missions, unlock gear, and beat other players in PvP modes such as Arena, and of course save the world. Experience insane RPG gameplay and cinematics as your squad unleashes dynamic chain combos with a single tap. In addition to Arena, there's also Blitz, Campaigns, and Alliance War, where you go head-to-head against other players in a tournament. The meta is always evolving, and there's always new characters and new ways to battle being released frequently. This month, a highly anticipated and limited time team will be available, the Sentinel team. This team has Sentinel, Omega Sentinel, and Nimrod. You don't want to miss out on the mutant hunting robots. You can also unlock characters and costumes from Marvel movies, TV shows, comics, and more. One of the newest characters is Thanos, who is from in Avengers Endgame. To celebrate the release of Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine, you can unlock Deadpool and Wolverine for free using a limited time promo code. Use my link in the description below to download Marvel Strike Force for free, and don't forget to enter the promo code to claim these limited time characters. Looking forward to seeing you there. I want to give some history and some context before I get into the main meat of this video. So way back in Season 10 and prior, Singed actually had a very well fleshed out AP item system where he could use Liandry's and Rylai's together as like a 2-item AP Bruiser core. And the reason for this, and the main difference between Season 10 Liandry's and now, is that back in Season 10 and prior, Liandry's burn damage actually used to be amplified a bit if the target was crowd controlled, meaning that Rylai's would have really good synergy with Liandry's. After this, in Seasons 11, 12, and 13, Singed had basically no mythic items that were worth buying, and a really subpar selection of legendary items. In Season 12, we had Turbo Chem Tank, which at the time gave perfect stats for Singed as a second item mythic, and that was pretty much it. But all other mythics in all of those other seasons, or in all 3 of those seasons, including Riftmaker and Radiant Virtue, were pretty bad. They're never that great on Singed, in my opinion, and Chem Tank was removed after Season 12 and was not available in Season 11, so for the vast majority of those 3 years, Singed didn't really even have a good mythic item. And depending on how long you've been watching my videos, you can probably go back to videos from Season 11, 12, and 13 and find clips of me talking about how unsatisfying mythic items were for Singed. In addition to this, our main core legendary item, Demonic Embrace, was much more underwhelming than old Liandry's from Season 10, and new Liandry's now here in Season 14. When I initially saw the video for the Season 14 changes, I was sitting in my car in a parking lot, and I pulled it up on my phone, and I heard that they were deleting mythic items, and I was yelling in joy. When Season 14 finally dropped, again this past January, I was having so much fun for the first time in so long playing a League of Legends without those dumb, stupid, restrictive mythic items. In just the first month of Season 14 in January, I had more fun than all of 2021, 2022, and 2023 combined. The current Liandry's is just way better than Demonic Embrace was because of the damage amplification and the higher burn damage. Riftmaker now is a better is a better legendary item than it used to be as a mythic item, because it's cheaper and the Omnivamp is not reduced on Poison Trail anymore. It used to be 33% effective on Poison Trail, now it's just full effective. Also, Cosmic Drive just works on Poison Trail now. It's not bugged anymore. Let's run through the changes that have occurred in Season 14 that have negatively impacted Singed. I'll cover direct and indirect changes in patch order to make it a bit easier to follow along. So, patch 14.1 is the Hotfix nerf. In patch 14.1, the opening patch, Singed received a Hotfix nerf within 24 hours. For context, Singed was about 56% win rate, which at the time was the highest win rate in the entire game. Now, you could look at that number alone and decide that Riot was justified in the Hotfix nerf. However, I want to try and provide you an alternative perspective that might change your mind. In the first month or two of Season 14, let alone the first day, no one had any idea how to properly itemize their champions, pretty much, except for Singed mains. For us, it was really obvious. We knew that we just had to build Liandry's, Riftmaker, and Rylai's, and that was our core. It was really obvious. It was the 3 most standard AP Bruiser items in the game in an order that makes sense. However, most other classes of champions outside of AP Bruisers had their items changed way more. For example, in the first month of Ranked, let alone in the first 24 hours where Singed got hotfixed, no one had realized how overpowered the combination of Eclipse plus Sundered Sky really was. The combination of shielding plus healing counters Singed's dot damage very hard, which people, again, now they realize that. No one had realized how overpowered magic resistance items were at the time either. Hollow Radiance and Caenic Verkern essentially nullify Singed's damage output against that champion for a huge part of the game. People were still very much figuring out the basics of itemization, but within 24 hours, Singed had been hotfix nerfed, with his Q poison trail ratio being reduced from 0.9 to 0.8. For context, Singed had a 0.9 AP ratio since February 2021. Would Singed have remained a 56% win rate if he was allowed to play the patch out? In my honest opinion, no, I really don't think so. I think his win rate would have done what it historically always does, and has done when it goes up, is that it would gradually decrease as players figure out the best items and champions to play against him. In this case, I genuinely do not believe that Riot gave Singed nearly enough time before they hotfix nerfed him. And I do not believe that the 56% win rate was truly representative of his real power level. Players were still figuring out all of the new items and getting used to not having to rush mythic tier items anymore. So in hindsight, it's like, I do believe Riot was too hasty in their nerf. I think people were really overreacting to lots of like meme videos that have popped up about people having fun playing Singed within the season 14 item system. There was some other indirect buffs to items like Ravenous Hydra, which were also an indirect nerf to Singed. Not as big of a deal. But essentially, I really don't think that Riot gave Singed enough time to truly play the patch out. I think it was a bit of an overreaction, because like nobody really knew what they were doing. But for Singed mains, the itemization was super obvious, right? Like, our items didn't change that much except for like replacing Demonic with new Liandry's. So we just built that. Rylai's was the same, and Riftmaker was the same, except it wasn't a mythic anymore and didn't suck anymore. So like, yeah, I don't think I think they overreacted a bit on this one. Patch 14.2. In this patch, Riftmaker's gold cost was increased by 100 gold, which I know doesn't sound like a major change, but the difference of 100 gold is 1 creep wave worth of perfect CSing, give or take. Which means that between waiting for the wave to spawn, farming it, recalling to buy your item, and then walking back onto the map either to a fight or an objective can add about a total minute plus of game time, which can matter a lot if a fight breaks out before you finish the item. And as far as indirect nerfs go, Riot made AD Twisted Fate top lane a thing. They gave him AD and attack speed scaling to his abilities. This was the start of like many months of ranged Twisted Fate and other top lane meta that kind of made the game miserable to play. For those of you guys who don't know, this matchup is completely unplayable for Singed because of Fleet Footwork at the time being completely overtuned for ranged champions, as well as ADC items being strong, which got worse later on, but we'll get into that. As well as ADC items being super strong, and some of these matchups, even now, 9 months later, are still very much unplayable, but they are much less common. Also in patch 14.2, we saw some pretty massive buffs to Darius. I think it was, what was it on Darius? Let me just find him real quick, 1 second. So his Q got a bunch of increased healing, and then his E armor pen got buffed as well. And Darius is a very popular champion, and he is arguably the hardest melee champion for Singed to play against in the entire game. So I would classify this as an indirect nerf only because Darius's pick rate is massive. Like, there's other champions that get buffed that are good against Singed, but their pick rate is not so high that it directly impacts Singe's win rate, but with Darius, it absolutely does. Moving on. So in patch 14.3, there was a direct or indirect nerf to Rocket Belt where it lost both flat damage and ratio damage, which hurt this as an option for Singe versus ranged champions in top lane. And there's also a huge net buff, I would say, to Sundered Sky, especially versus Singe in particular, where it lost 10 AD in exchange for 150 health. So from 300 to 450 health total, making this already excellent versus Singed item even better against him, because it's just more health for Singed to have the cheer through while they auto attack you and heal periodically. I think it's like every 6 or 8 seconds or something like that, which, yeah, that sucked for us. In case you guys are wondering why I keep looking in different directions, it's because I am reading off of my tablet. I did actually script this video out, which I normally don't do, but this is a very important topic to me, so I wanted to make sure that I get things out correctly. Patch 14.5, there was a price increase on Rocket Belt where it went from 2,500 to 2,600 gold, but it did gain 10 AP. This, however, is a net negative for Singe specifically, due to him wanting to rush the item as soon as possible in order to gap close onto ranged top laners. Alright, patch 14.6 notes, the patch notes where the images were copy-pasted by an intern because they are almost as big as my entire monitor. As far as direct nerfs this patch goes, Hunting Guys lost 5 AP from 35 to 30, and I believe it was Fiendish Codex. Yeah, Fiendish Codex went from 35 to 25 AP. Hunting Guys being nerfed made rushing this item during your Leandry's build path a bit weaker, which matters a lot for Singe when his damage had already been nerfed pretty hard in the hotfix of 14.1. Fiendish Codex losing 10 AP as well was almost 1/3 of its total AP, which made rushing Cosmic Drive versus certain matchups like Olaf or Darius way less viable because your damage was so much lower on the build path. This also directly double nerfed the Riftmaker build path, which builds out of Hunting Guys and Fiendish Codex, meaning that the build path of Riftmaker now had 15 less total AP, which matters a lot, again, when Singe's total damage had already been nerfed so much in the hotfix. So patch 14.10 is the disastrous patch of the year so far, in my opinion. I'm trying to stay a little positive. Maybe they can outdo themselves. Yeah, 14.10 had so much stuff in it, all of which was pretty much horrible for Singed, and this was like almost being like nuked from orbit. It just was for Singed, and in a lot of other people's eyes, it was one of the most disastrous mid-season patches that Riot has ever put out. We're just now approaching patch 14.19 for the Split 3 update at the time of recording this video, and the effects of patch 14.10 are still hugely impacting the game. There's so much crap in this patch, way too much to go over for this video, but what you really need to know is that there were sweeping updates to ADCs and their item rune ecosystems, which made them overtuned as hell. Barrier was buffed massively, which made them essentially unkillable for a champion like Singe who lacks burst damage. Bot lane experience share was also increased back or reverted back to season 7 or 8 levels, meaning that bot laners would and still do often match the levels of soul laners, which is fucking crazy. They do this because bot lane is inherently much more snowballing now due to their items providing way more power than they used to. So when one bot lane gets ahead even slightly, they just crush the other bot lane more and more as the game goes on. That is obviously bad for top laners since it's action happening across the map that we can't really influence early on, but especially bad for a champion like Singe who lacks gap closers and burst damage to quickly reach and kill an ADC. Especially when they're being peeled or healed or shielded by support like Alistar or Lulu, etc. We did have some pretty massive direct nerfs here. Corrupting Potion was just straight up deleted from the game. So if you wanted to have an opening item for Singe that gave you health regen and mana regen at the cost of providing basically no damage, the option is gone now. Singed having no innate sustain enjoyed Corrupting Potion a lot in certain matchups, but now it's no longer an option. It was really good defensive option, and it's just gone now. Another my sweet baby, Anathema's Chains, was removed from the game, just straight up deleted. Singe was one of the best users, if not the best user of Anathema's Chains, since he really enjoyed the flat health and the damage reduction that it provided at pretty low cost. It was a great item for him to buy later in the game because it would synergize with his ultimate and help him absorb some damage from a fed carry. Singe ultimate gives resistances, and Anathema's Chains gives health. You do the math. Or he could cheese buy it early versus a really hard matchup like Kennen to be a bit tankier, but at the cost of doing 0 damage. You could switch your target later on as the game moves on as well. It was great. It was great on Singed. Just gone. And then going to the star of the show. Where is the star of the show? Faded Ashes. Man, there's so much garbage in this patch. All right, Faded Ashes. So, oh boy, you want to see the section I have on Faded Ashes? That is all Faded Ashes notes right there. Check that out. Okay, so one huge nerf this patch, if not the, it's not, okay, not the biggest nerf, but one huge nerf was Riot replaced the Blasting Wand in the Liandry's build path with Faded Ashes, and then subsequently they nerfed Faded Ashes damage versus champions only into the ground via Hotfix and the next few patches. Faded Ashes originally had 40 AP and 7 damage per second for 3 seconds, so a total of 21. However, due to AP junglers abusing the item was nerfed hard. But instead of reducing the damage to monsters, Riot decided that laners who want Liandry's can get fucked and reduce the damage to champions, which was already pretty low, down to 5 damage per over 3 seconds per second for a total of 15, and then nerf the flat AP of the item from 40 down to 30. At this point, the item was much weaker than Blasting Wand was in the Liandry's build path. Blasting Wand in the Liandry's build path just, for a laning champion like Singed, provided way more. I did a test at one point during this patch where I compared Blasting Wand DPS to minions versus Faded Ashes DPS to minions, and Blasting Wand was actually out DPSing Faded Ashes on minions, which is insane, and it was definitely out DPSing Faded Ashes on champions as well. However, Blasting Wand no longer builds in Liandry, so if you want to have a high damage first item or just a decent damage first item, you're fucked. At least on that half of the build path. The other half is still Haunting Guys, which is still great, but only really great against melee champions. If you're against a ranged champion, you just want wave clear. Faded Ashes is just, it's not it. Yeah, and they haven't rebuffed the item for laners at all. It's just really really disappointing, honestly. Really sad about this one. The, however, biggest direct nerf to Singed this patch was definitely, where are you? Summoner spells. Ghost. Oh my god. Ghost was triple nerfed by Riot, and this really hurt Singed's win rate. Ghost is summoner spell that Singed loves for obvious reasons. You push the button, you move faster for a bit, it makes sense. However, in 14.10, which is this mid-season patch, Riot triple nerfed it by increasing the cooldown from 210 to 240. The duration was decreased from 15 to 10, and the reset mechanic was deleted entirely. We still take the summoner spell on Singed most games because but this contributed a huge amount to Singed's power loss in this patch, which was already too low going into it. But the second biggest nerf, also a bit of a banger from Riot, in this patch was Predator being completely removed from the game. Yeah, that's right, Predator was just fucking deleted. So love it or hate it, and I know there's a lot of mixed opinions on this rune, it was Singed's best scaling rune out of every rune. It was the only rune that scaled better than Phase Rush, which is now Singed's best scaling rune. It provided him with lots of playmaking potential in the late game, even though it was already super nerfed hard for the early game. Riot's justification for removing it was that they kept it intentionally weak for a very long time because they didn't like it when it was strong. But deleting it from the game completely made Singed's range matchups in top lane go from impossible to, I really just want to quit this game now. Don't want to play. They locked in range top, don't want to play. Basically, Singed, if you guys don't know, used Predator versus range matchups to set up ganks versus them with junglers. The problem with them deleting it is that Singed now had no options at all versus range top laners because, again, Rocket Belt nerfed into the ground, Predator deleted. They also buffed every ranged AD top laner's items this patch, so Twisted Fate and Vayne and Akshan and all these characters had way better items. They buffed all of their runes. They buffed Barrier, so you couldn't even fucking kill them if you ever got onto them. It's... oh man, I'm getting so upset just talking about it. Yeah, there's other nerfs. Let me. Yeah, and because Singed's items got nerfed, Singed's summoner spells got nerfed, Singed's runes got nerfed, while his direct counters, which were already dominating him, got buffed very hard, while Singed lost hella ecosystem in terms of like things getting deleted from the game, and everybody else gained them. Yeah, horrible time for Singed. There was some more indirect nerfs to Singed in the form of some other rune removals. Runes being removed, I think. Here's Futures Market just completely deleted from the game, just gone. This rune Singed enjoyed using because he used it to gain components in the early game at the cost of going into debt, which is super good for him versus hard matchups. So if you're against, for example, Darius, and he was just dumpstering you, and you couldn't farm a full amount of gold for like boots or cloth armor, you could recall at 250 gold, spend some extra gold, go into debt, pay extra money for a cloth armor, but then you teleport back to lane and, hey, at least I have cloth armor. At least it's a little bit hard for him to kill me, right? Because people don't realize that some matchups on Singe, you can get denied so hard that you actually can't farm at all. But like, yeah, losing Futures Market for that reason really sucked. Also, Minion Dematerializer being deleted. Singe really liked this rune because it would let him farm cannons more easily in the early game. In the early game, it takes Singe forever to kill cannons, forever. He could actually use this rune to kill them pretty quickly in the early game without spending half an hour, 45 seconds DPSing them, right? Overall, this patch was a complete fucking disaster for Singed, one of which we are still feeling the effects of even now. It has been almost 5 months later. According to Lolalytics, at this time, Singed was the worst champion in the entire game, coming in dead last on their tier list. I'm not making it up, I'm going to show screenshots of this. And for context, the data that Lolalytics provides is actually very generous for their sampling. That was Lolalytics being kind to Singed by putting him dead last. The meaning of this is that Lolalytics, the way that they sample, is that a game that has one Emerald player and then 9 Platinum players will count that as an Emerald tier game. So the real win rate for Singe is actually much lower. I think U.GG had Singe somewhere around like 43% win rate in Masters Plus, and I will show the screenshot of that as well. Patch 14.11. In this patch, we finally see a direct buff to Singed after suffering for 11 patches in a row. They halfway reverted the Poison Trail nerf from patch 14.1, bumping the ratio up from 0.8 to 0.85, and they also decreased his ultimate cooldown to 100 at all ranks instead of being 121, 10, and 100 at 6, 11, and 18 respectively. These buffs were very, very needed and very welcome, but they only serve to stabilize Singe's win rate, which again over the next few patches and to this day has been declining, with Riot paying essentially no attention to the champion. We're now at a point where Singe's win rate is negative again. Singe is a champion where I personally feels the best to play when his win rate is around 52%. Before I get nasty comments talking about bias because I'm a one-trick, I know that I will, and because people have probably already written that without getting to this point in the video, please understand that Riot developers themselves, such as Riot August and Riot Freak and Riot Froxon, have all talked about how different champions need different win rates to feel fun to play for their mains and remain healthy to play against for other players. I feel that that appropriate number for Singe to satisfy all players is about 52%, give or take a little bit. So while the Singe buff from this patch was welcome, it did not go far enough in addressing the core problem that I am addressing in this video, which is that Singe's power level feels dissatisfying, unsatisfying. And the keyword there is feels. Feels. You can have a champion that is 50% win rate, like Singe, that, while being statistically balanced, can feel very underwhelming due to the perceived level of power being lower than what it should be. In this case, I think that both his perceived level of power and his actual power level are lower than what they should be, leading to the champion's power level feeling very underwhelming. While you can be a Singed main and still perform very well in some games, the champion does not live up to the power level that he should have right now, in my opinion, and that makes maining him much less fun than what Singed and his players both deserve. Patch 14.15. In this patch, we had a direct nerf to Singe in the form of Swiftness Boots gold cost increasing from 900 to 1000 gold. Now, every champion did get their boots nerfed in some way this patch, but I'm not going to leave it out since tier 2 boots are way more core on Singe due to him not having any gap closers. And the synergy that flat movement speed provides to his passive, by the way, is really important because flat movement speed gets amped by his passive, which is a percentage increase. The more flat move speed you have, the better amp you gain from the percentage of your passive. This is why Cosmic Drive and Dead Man's Plate feel so good on Singed. They provide not just percentage increases, but also flat increases. And having tier 2 boots on Singed is a massive, massive difference. Massive difference, more than other champions, compared to having tier 1 boots. Patch 14.16, Death Timer nerfs. While I do feel that this was overall a pretty minor nerf, I feel the need to bring it up because Singe's win rate did decrease on the patch due to this. Death timers in the early game were increased. Singed loves to proxy on wave 3 and execute. Then proxy and execute on subsequent waves due to his early game being super weak and needing to farm. However, his early death timers were made longer, and this is a very obvious nerf to proxying. In addition to this, the death timer that used to be optimized to keep executing until level 8 is now optimized to execute at level 6. Meaning that, what that means is basically, it was more optimal to execute up until level 8. It was faster than recalling and running back to your lane. It was faster to execute and run back to your lane. Now that timer stops at level 6 with this change. This means that Singed has to stop executing 2 levels earlier, which is a nerf to your overall tempo in the early game. Patch 14.17. So in this patch, I don't want to dive too deep into it because I don't want to get off topic and have the video become too verbose. But basically, Warmogs nerfed into the ground and Absorb Life nerfed into the ground when this rune and this item were both great on Singed for a while. These are never worth taking anymore, ever. Don't waste your rune slot on Absorb Life. Don't waste your gold on Warmogs. It is not worth buying. They are complete trash now. There were also a bunch, and I mean a lot of other indirect changes that happened which affected Singe throughout the course of the entire year so far. I'm not going to get into every single little thing because one, people will think I'm crazy for analyzing my one trick at such a ridiculous granular level, I think is the correct word to use there, and it would just double the length of the video, which is already getting kind of long. So alright guys, patch 14.18, this is the current patch and I'm recording the video on this patch. It has now been over 4 months, almost 5 months since the disaster of a mid-season patch dropped. Riot has nerfed most of the power outliers in the game. This is the world's patch. They've nerfed range tops a bit, they've nerfed ADCs a bit, although these are both still very dominant in high elo and pro play. There's not any direct changes in this patch that I want to talk about, but I do want to talk about how AP junglers have evolved and how their role in the game since mid-season has negatively impacted Singe top lane. So, in patch 14.10, you will remember that Riot introduced Faded Ashes into the game. Then they nerfed the damage for all laners while keeping the damage to monsters very strong, aka keeping the item super OP for junglers. This is a problem for a laning champion like Singe because a lot of power was removed from the item for champions that weren't even abusing it, unlike AP junglers who were abusing it. AP junglers have gained huge popularity this year, with 2 of the biggest defenders being Brand and Lilia. AP junglers being very popular, especially dot AP junglers, makes Singe's niche in the game less valuable. It encourages enemy teams to build more magic resistance when a team has both an AP jungler and Singed. Mid laners are also less likely to pick AD champions and will often opt for AP instead, meaning that team comps are frequently ruined in champ select. What used to generally be AP top with Singed, AP mid, and AD jungler alongside ADC and support now very often turns into AP top lane Singed, AP jungler, AP mid, 1 ADC, and then a support, which is generally also dealing magic damage. This ruins so many team comps in champ select. You lose games entirely before they even start, since teams that stack so much AP are very easily countered. AP is a very counterable, magic damage is a very counterable mechanic in League of Legends, more so than physical damage. One of the biggest benefits of Singed, being a Singed player, used to be that you would provide magic damage to your team, and your jungler and mid laner could be unleashed to play a physical damage threat if they wanted to. But with AP junglers being so strong and mid laners generally picking AP champions, this benefit turned into a negative, making Singed feeling worse to play as a result. So how would I change Singed if I could in a way that would make him feel better to play in a quick way? I would personally revert this nerf from patch 11.20, which was to Singe's Fling, where it was lowered by 20 base damage and a huge 15% AP ratio. The problem with this nerf in a modern context is that Fling was nerfed here in 2021 due to Predator being massively overbuffed at the end of Season 11, which caused Singe's win rate to spike. Now in Season 14, Predator does not even exist in the game anymore. It has been deleted. So this nerf is meaningless in a modern context. This should be reverted. Wrapping things up, I do believe that Singed has faced many systemic changes, both directly and indirectly, that have caused the champion to be a lot less fun to play these days, and that's not Singed's fault. I think that Riot took on way too many challenges in this midseason by giving both ADCs and AP junglers a rework at the same time, while simultaneously destroying Syndra's summoners and runes and items and components, which hurt his satisfaction a lot. I also think that nerfs from before midseason, from patches 14.1 to 14.9, were quite detrimental in their own ways, which I did go over earlier. I was in close communication with balanced developers, which is why I haven't made this video until now, but that is no longer the case, so here we are. I felt the need to make this video and put my thoughts out there, not just for you guys here on YouTube, but also for the greater Singe community as a whole. I don't want to pretend that everything is okay with Singe when it's not. Myself and many other people feel that Singe's power level is very unsatisfying right now, which really sucks because we also feel like Singed is one of the most beautiful and timeless designs, not just in League, but in MOBA games in general. He's a fantastic design. He's so much fun. There really truly is no other champion like Singed in any other game that can give you the feeling that Singed does when you're having fun with this champion. No one. No character in any other game comes close to the feeling that Singe can give you. And if you've never played this champion, I not only urge you, I beg you from the bottom of my heart, please give him a try. It will change your entire look, your entire perspective on League of Legends. I've mained Singe since 2013. That's right, 11 years of maining this champion. He's just that fun to me. And I just want the champion Singe to shine like he deserves. He's an amazing design. His players are very, very dedicated, myself and others included, and we really just want to see Singed be the best that he can be and not be so forgotten about by the developers. So if you guys stuck with me until the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please, I normally don't ask this, but please like and subscribe and comment on the video, boost it in the algorithm, and share it with everyone that you can that you think might care even a little bit. Again, I normally don't ask, but this is a very, very, very important topic to me and the rest of the Singe mains community, and I appreciate it greatly if you did do that. So, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one. Mwah. Peace, guys.